Jim Etter seems to have all the makings of a real-life superhero. And honestly, he just might be one. Let's take a quick look at the facts. A superhero has to have an amazing origin story. Jim was an avid camper when he was a kid and spent a lot of time outdoors. And from a typical kid fitting this description, you might expect him to have like stories of scrapes and bruises, maybe a broken arm. He might have seen a shark when he was out swimming one day in the ocean, but you'd be severely underestimating his brushes with the natural world. Jim was struck by lightning twice. The first time, he says, when he was about 12 years old. Here's the way he describes it. This strike came in the form of hitting the front lawn and gouging up a furrow of ground. The erosion of the strike, 3 feet in front of me, crescendoed in little splatters of tennis ball-sized sparks, jumping toward me and disappearing all around my feet and into my foot, as the impact of shocking thunder propelled me 4 feet backwards, smacking me against the front door, cracking the corner of the concrete step where I was sitting. Why didn't I die? I sat on a rubber porch mat, wearing the age-old black and white high tops of top Keds, in style in the 1950s for kids. I was isolated from the ground, and the energy passed through me, and the electrical energy connected to the earth, sort of making an electrical net around me, dissipating into the earth, leaving me dizzy or unconscious, which I don't quite understand. Jim, were you unconscious or dazed and tingly? Okay. The second incident, Jim describes thusly. Most dramatic of the two incidents. In my barracks at Los Alamitos, doing the weekend warrior stuff, when at about 3 a.m., as I lay on the top bunk bed, I noticed lightning strike the tarmac about a quarter mile away. Raising up to look out the top transit window, I grabbed the support metal post which framed the ancient structure, a converted warehouse made into temporary housing for the Navy Air Transit. The old shack of wooden decking saved my life. The lightning came with a streak from nowhere, hitting the back of my hand. Just before the strike, my hair bristled. I was isolated from completing the circuit, passing the energy all around me somehow. I remember my tongue feeling as if it were frying like a piece of bacon as the strike went on forever. Struck by lightning twice and lived to tell the tale. Amazing origin story, check. Okay, a superhero should also have an exceptional lineage, someone we can all point to in their past to prove that they were fated to be extraordinary. Jim can check that box too. He's related to Gary Cooper on his mother's side of his family, and to the Andrews sisters on his father's side of the family. Check and check. Finally, a superhero needs to have a remarkable mode of transportation, a sweet ride. Jim is a collector of classic cars, so he has that covered too. Embodied by a spirit of service to his community and country, Jim's life has been defined by giving back. Growing up, serving his community was second nature for Jim, who worked with and led several service organizations. He also, in superhero fashion, saved hundreds of people from potentially life-threatening situation on the Warner Brothers ranch. He was doing a walkthrough for an upcoming community event and felt intense heat coming from a manhole cover that he was standing on. In Jim's mind, it was a sure indication of fire, so he ran through the ranch, warning others and getting everyone else out to safety. Then, in 1962, at the ripe old age of 19, Jim joined the Navy. Over the course of the next 6 years of service, 2.5 years were spent in active combat in the Western Pacific and Vietnam on the aircraft carrier USS Hancock. Being specialized in Merter rockets, rocket launchers, special weapons, bombs, rockets, and missiles, most of that time he was working on the fusing mechanisms and cycle firing systems for the bombs, which, as you can imagine, comes with a high degree of danger. If something fell on the deck, Jim had to pick it up and throw it overboard before it exploded. It was not a job for the faint of heart. The work required intense focus, concentration, and Jim's arm would frequently go numb, and his hearing was severely affected by the close proximity of the aircrafts. But the thing that really stuck with him, the most horrific event of his time in the Navy, was witnessing the tragic death of a friend, a serviceman he worked with. Jim says he doesn't like to talk about it much. It had been a long day and night of working back-to-back shifts. He and his colleague were tired and sweaty. They'd been working side by side for many hours, but they were working well, quickly and seamlessly, until his buddy took a tragic misstep that cost him his life, walking into the still spinning rotor of a plane. I remember seeing him all mangled. His face was unrecognizable, but his body was still moving. Jim recounted with tears in his eyes. Back then, they didn't know about PTSD. Jim had no choice but to keep working. It was his duty, and he took it seriously. But the horror of what he saw that day stuck with him. After serving in Vietnam, Jim returned home to California and turned his attention to Hollywood. He had lots of stories from his time in the entertainment trenches. Being the dancing gorilla on the Captain and Tennille, working on The Greatest American Hero, Hardcastle, and McCormick, A-Team, Riptide, Stingray, The Commish, and Silk Stockings. He started in specialty lighting, but then transitioned to being a technical service coordinator. Jim also worked as a lighting technician in features like Mr. and Mrs. Smith. There's a scene where everyone is rappelling down from the ceiling in a 99-cent store, and they put me on the roof to do the lighting cue. I had to dim the lights so the flash of the gun could be seen. It was on Mr. and Mrs. Smith that Jim was injured. Initially unaware of the extent of his injuries, Jim worked through the pain and made sure they got all the shots they needed. Always a trooper. But once examined, his injuries proved to be career-ending and resulted in knee replacement surgery a few years after. Happy to relax and enjoy his retirement, injuries from the past resurfaced. His hearing was challenged after his work on the aircraft carriers. Also, he was haunted by the things he had seen while serving, and he couldn't shake them. That, plus exposure to Agent Orange and being struck by lightning while on base, well, there was a host of things that still plagued him. So Jim applied to the VA for benefits with no luck. Every time I filled out a form, they just asked for another one. Frustrated with the red tape and the runaround, Jim heard about the Veterans Benefit Assistance Program at MPTF. This program was started in 2009 by MPTF social worker Naomi Rada. Who, by the way, is quick to say it's not a one-woman show and that she couldn't do any of it without the staff of the MPTF. But when she recounts the tale, it's clear that it took a Herculean effort on her part and the MPTF's to figure out how to help veterans get their benefits. Naomi said that in the beginning, it was difficult just because getting an appointment at the VA was on a first-come, first-served basis, which meant sitting and waiting for hours till you get screened. And that, plus the challenge of getting through the paperwork, made it a daunting task. So Naomi made it her goal to break down the barriers, saying it was all about finding a willing and sympathetic ear in the VA who would work with her. And she did. So thanks to her efforts, MPTF helps individuals that work in entertainment, are U.S. military veterans, their spouses, or the veteran parents of industry professionals file for and acquire outstanding VA benefits. The program has been so successful that in the last year alone, MPTF screened 621 veterans, procured over $185,000 in retroactive benefits, and approximately $22,000 in ongoing monthly benefits that will continue to go to those vets like Jim for the rest of their lives. Naomi knows firsthand that trying to navigate the complex VA benefits system alone can be overwhelming. So when Jim needed help getting his own benefits, she was there to answer the call. In August 2015, Naomi started working closely with Jim and felt that given Jim's background and years of service, he made a strong case for his long overdue benefits from the VA. But it took a lot of legwork and tenacity on Naomi's part. After many calls and emails with the VA, Naomi's hard work paid off, and she was able to get Jim some of his benefits. She called and asked Jim if he received any monies from the VA, and he confirmed, saying, "Money just showed up in my account." By 2016, Jim received a 70% rating by the VA, but Naomi was convinced that due to the length of time his benefits had been outstanding, that he'd eventually receive 100% rating. And she was right. By early 2017, Jim's rating was indeed 100%. And she was able to procure the entirety of his outstanding benefits, nearly doubling his monthly income. For someone on a fixed retirement income, that means a world of difference. Thankful for the long-awaited benefits, Jim is able to live more comfortably and just returned from a long overdue vacation. Excited about his trip, Jim wrote to Naomi after a week of camping in Carpinteria, saying that the recovered benefits from the VA had helped him get back out there doing what he has enjoyed for so many years before his disabilities made him housebound. This is a beginning to a life that has been sequestered by disabilities. However, the gained veterans benefits have changed my life and focus, that there can be something more in the balance of living. The awesome feeling to just go and do some of the things I hadn't done in the past, and so enriched my desire to recover from past injuries and get back into my life. He's even pledged to pay it forward with his extra income, from buying a homeless man's meal to helping an underprivileged kid get school supplies. His goal is to bless others at least once a month. Jim even started a monthly program he calls One Vet at a Time, where he finds a homeless vet, gives him shelter in a motel for 1 to 4 days, whatever's needed, a shower, clean clothing, a haircut, new shoes. He also provides 3 square meals a day for the time that he has them and connects them to the VA so they can tap into permanent help. Then he does it again the next month with someone else. So, you see, in typical superhero fashion, Jim is determined to help others. And we at the MPTF are thankful that when a U.S. military vet and retired entertainment professional, our superhero, needed help, we were able to answer the call. After all, that's what we're all about, taking care of our own. Because even superheroes need a little help sometimes. Jim? So, Jim, we want other people who aren't in this room to know, what we think of you. So, you don't have to wear it, but I'm going to give it to you anyway.